Hey Cal fans, and welcome to a new season of the football film study here on California Golden Blogs. As we all know, Saturday's game against Davis wasn't the cleanest offensive performance we've ever seen, but since it's the start of the season, I'm going to keep things positive with a look at some of the best scheme that we saw against the Aggies. Let's start with a two tight end run game and this relatively clean 13-yard game by Christopher Brown Jr. When you watch this play from a personnel standpoint, you have to love Cal's offensive line pancaking a defensive end 8 yards downfield, but what I want to focus on is the scheme that allowed this to happen, because it's definitely not true that all of our run plays looked like this. To understand why this was a good play call, let's look at one that was a little bit worse. Here we see Cal running to the left just like on the last play. Davis is playing their base front, which is a pretty traditional 3-4, so in the middle of the formation we see their nose tackle lined up shaded over the center. Outside of him, we see the defensive ends pinched just inside the offensive tackles, and finally on the edges we see their outside linebackers with one at the top of the screen lined up outside the left tackle, while the others walked out toward Cal's trips receivers. On this play, Cal's running to the left, away from the trips. What we see here is that the left tackle is the widest blocker in the box, and so he's going to have to widen to kick out the outside linebacker, leaving the left guard singled up on Davis's defensive end. As we can see, with two one-on-one blocks to the play side like this, Cal's not going to get the same kind of movement that we saw in that last successful play. Those defenders are easily going to secure the gaps outside the guard and the tackle, and that's going to force the running back to cut back to the inside, where all sorts of terrible things are happening. First, we see that the center and right guard are both leaving the combo block on the nose tackle, letting him get straight into the backfield. Next, we see Davis's defensive end here shed our left guard and become the first man to make contact with the running back. Then we see their play side inside linebacker shedding our center to become the second man in on the tackle. And then we see their backside inside linebacker crossing the formation without anyone to block him, becoming the third man to make contact. The result is that our running back has to pick up a very physical, hard-fought 3-yard gain. Now let's return to that better-looking play, where we see that Cal's lined up a little bit differently. Instead of using a trips formation, we've got an in-line tight end at the bottom of the screen and an off-line tight end at the top. Once again, Davis is playing their traditional 3-4 front with a nose tackle over the center, defensive ends pinched just inside the offensive tackles, and outside linebackers lined up outside the tight ends. The tight ends, though, are going to make all the difference here. On the last play, we saw that our left tackle was the outside-most blocker in the box, and so he had to kick out the outside linebacker, leaving the left guard in a one-on-one block with the defensive end. When we put a tight end to that side, however, then we can use him to kick out the outside linebacker, and that's going to free up the left tackle to combo block with the left guard from the defensive end up to the inside linebacker. As we run this play forward, we see that it's really the chip block by the left tackle that gets this defensive end on skates, letting the left guard finish him off with the pancake block downfield. Now that we've seen a little bit about what worked in the run game, let's go to the passing game to see one more bit of scheme that I liked on Saturday. In a recent interview, Garbers said that one of his goals in the offseason was to improve his passing over the middle, and here we see a play where some of that work pays off with a nice completion on 3rd and 7. On this play, Davis is running cover 3, so their cornerback here is a deep outside third defender, and they're spinning this safety down into the box to play from the curl zone out to the flat. Cal's going to draw these two defenders by running their outside wide receiver down the sidelines, pulling that cornerback deep, and then running their tight end on an out, pulling the safety out wide to the flat. By getting rid of those defenders, Cal's isolating Davis's linebackers on the other route that's going to come open behind them. To see how that route came open, let's look at the bottom of the screen. Here we see that Davis's defenders lined up outside of Cal's slot wide receiver. Since this is cover 3, he knows that he's got a free safety in the deep middle of the field, and so he wants to play outside of that receiver so that he can force everything inside to his help players in the middle of the field. We're then going to attack this outside leverage with an inside breaking intermediate crossing route. This puts that defender behind his receiver, and at this point it's just up to the quarterback to find the window between those zone dropping linebackers. This is a nice, on-time, accurate throw to pick up a first down. Now, on this play, just a few plays later, we're able to isolate a wide receiver on those zone-dropping linebackers in a similar way. On this play, we're running new wide receiver Kekoa Crawford on the intermediate crossing route, and before the snap, we see that Davis has both a safety and a cornerback outside of those linebackers, so if we want to isolate Crawford on the linebackers, we need to get rid of those two defensive backs. We're going to do this by running a double post pattern, pulling both of those defenders deep into the inside, and that's going to isolate Crawford on a zone-dropping linebacker, and he's going to smoke him to get outside of the coverage for a nice 37-yard touchdown. Alright, that's it for this video. For more Pac-12 content, including an upcoming breakdown of this week's Washington game, check out my blog at patreon.com/Burke18. Otherwise, I'll see you back here next week with another video.